In this session, you're going to learn how to build a high-performing sales team by using a proven framework to develop reps with intention, not hope. Hope is not a strategy. Justin's going to break down for us the tell, show, observe, coach, repeat system so you can confidently train, reinforce, and scale key skills across your team without burning out. Tell us about Justin, Scott.
Well, Justin's known for his resiliency on top of his results. He's overcome incredible adversity. He's had over 30 surgeries that he's had to deal with, and he's gone on to become one of the top reps in Salesforce history, and since then has built his own thriving coaching business. He's helped hundreds of teams master the art of consistent performance through structure and accountability. He got named one of the top CROs in tech by the age of 34. He was also ranked #1 at Salesforce, like I said, in 4 different roles over the last 15 years. He's coached thousands and thousands of reps and leaders from companies like Salesforce, HubSpot, Samsara, and more to break records and accelerate promotions. Justin, what's the one thing that everybody's going to take away from your session today?
No matter where you're at, you're one system away from transforming your results as a team and your life as an individual.
All right, so off we go.
Tell us how.
Tell us how.
Well, first off, we're here, boys. We've been working on this for a while, so I'm excited to kick this off. When I thought about talking and what's a framework and a system I could talk through, I wanted to think about one that could have the greatest impact, #1, and 2, is the most implementable. Because we've all been on like a webinar and they're talking at 10,000 feet and it sounds great, but you can't really do anything with it. So, when I thought about this framework, this is something that is simple, it's actionable, and literally if you're a leader or someone watching this right now, even if you're a rep, you can bring this to your leadership. You can implement this tomorrow, right? Without me, you can do it. Don't need to buy any tools. Don't need anything. So that's why I want to talk about this, because we really have, I think it's a plague or a pandemic literally in the industry. And it's not my opinion. A couple interesting data points that should terrify you. But there was a study done in 2024, I think it was QuotaPath. 450 teams were surveyed. 91% of them said they were on track or have already said they weren't going to hit their number for the year. 450 teams. And when you think about the latest report from Salesforce, their State of the Union report, you guys know this, there were I think it was 5,000 people that were part of it. 2/3 of the sales reps said they don't feel like they're going to hit their number this year. So let's think about this. 9 in 10 sales teams are missing their number. 2/3 of sales reps aren't confident they're going to hit their number. And what's the #1 thing you see when you go on LinkedIn or on social media? What is everybody talking about? What is it?
AI.
AI. How can I replace my sales team with AI?
Yeah.
Right? So if I'm a seller, if I'm a leader, am I going to be cool, calm, and collected, or am I going to be stressed out as hell? Right?
You're going to be stressed out as hell.
Yeah. Right? So,
I would be. I am already.
I am.
Right, and the data doesn't lie. So I wanted to put something together and talk through something that I used as a sales leader, that helped me, scale my teams, and now something I leverage as, a coach and an advisor that people can implement that's very simple and actionable. So that's where this comes from. It's very simple. It's tell, show, observe, coach, repeat. Tell them what good looks like. Show them what good looks like. Model it. Observe them effectively. Keyword effectively. There's a right and wrong way.
Sure.
Coach them effectively. I'm going to talk more about the data in a few, but there's a good chance if you're a sales leader, you're actually giving feedback that hurts your reps, doesn't help them. And then how do you repeat it in a way that's going to make it stick?
I like
right?
that.
So that's the framework.
I'm only upset that it doesn't spell something nice as a nice acronym.
You know what? I tried, look, I'd be lying if I didn't say, I didn't try to think about a way
how to make it work.
Sexy. Yeah. And I went back and forth.
No, it's good.
Version 2. That'll be version 2.
Version 2.
Let's talk about tell then.
Yeah.
All right. So why do you think so many sales teams skip defining what good looks like?
I think it's a combination of, #1 is ignorance, because everyone knows, hey, we should tell what good looks like, right? It's not like this is a crazy concept. But until you realize just the true impact of not telling effectively and doing it right, they don't know what that is. So the whole idea of tell is no matter what the skill is you're trying to help them learn, you have to document and do it in a rubric / checklist style learning. Okay. And when I say ignorance, the data is really clear. There's a study that came out, and it was a meta-analysis, and it said like people that learn via checklists or like very specific rubrics, they learn anywhere from 30 to 40% faster than when people are not giving very specific instructions and directions. Right. So let's think about this. To take a step back, a non-sales example. So let's say you have Chef A and Chef B. So Chef A, and Thanksgiving's coming up. I know you're in Canada. You might do something different. I don't know. But,
We have Thanksgiving too, different time, but.
all right. So that just shows my knowledge. So let's say Thanksgiving's coming up, and Chef A says, hey, we need an incredible Thanksgiving meal. Here's the recipe, the ingredients, time, temp, all the things to produce a great meal. Chef B is, hey, we just want an amazing meal that everyone's going to love, saying like saying that was awesome. Which chef are you going to have more confidence in, A or B?
A.
Obvious.
I wanted to say B to have fun with you, but I agree with A.
Yeah. Well, it's A. It's obvious, right? It's hey, if you give them written instructions exactly what to do and how to do it, that's going to increase the likelihood. So, and that goes to that data that I talked about. Well, if that's so obvious for you two and like the folks that are watching, well, why does so many sales leaders say, oh, you need to create more urgency? Oh, you need to get the business impact.
Work harder.
Work harder. Like that's the equivalent of saying, make it tasty. Right? And we don't realize it, because the path to hell is paved with the best of intentions. So that's one of the big things is like they're ignorant and they don't know just how much of an impact it is. Right? And so the goal is to, again, whatever the skill is you're trying to drill, you get it to the point where it's objective, it's black and white, it's not subjective, and it is very clear on what good looks like.
I like it.
And to make it a business case behind it, it's that 30 to 40% increase. So let's bring this to the sales world. If you're a new hire, or if you're a sales leader trying to shorten your ramp time, and let's say your ramp time is 6 months, well, 30 to 40%, that shaves 2 months off. Or let's say you're a sales leader and you're trying to implement a new process or a new methodology, and let's say it's the same 6 months, and you shave 2 months off that. Well, if you're an enterprise rep with a $1.2 million quota, that's $200,000 per rep you just unlock. And think about it. That's just the tell. I'm not talking about any other part of the framework.
And who has 6 months to ramp these days?
Well, exactly. I mean, everyone's...
It's ridiculous.
Exactly. Everyone's stressed as hell, right? So what better way to do that? And that's just one part of the framework.
Yeah. Okay.
That's the crazy part. So like,
I love it. So tell us what show it. Keep going. Tell us show. I'm excited.
Yeah, no, you're excited.
Tell us what show is.
So the show, step one, I have to tell you what good looks like, document that, and I get that 30 to 40% unlock.
Okay.
Right? Now, the show, I'll give you an example. So remember before I said Chef A, recipe, Chef B, make it tasty. Mm-hmm. You chose Chef A, right? So let's say, same Chef A with the recipe. Chef B, you have the recipe, and you have Gordon Ramsay cooking it in a video that walks you through how they do the recipe. Okay. Which chef are you going to choose?
Gordon the one who's demonstrating.
The one who's demonstrating, right? They get the same recipe. There's still step-by-step instructions. But by having somebody actually do it, and you could see what good looks like, again, you're going to have more confidence in Chef B, right? Because they have that video example. So like that's what the show is. It's like we're modeling the behavior for them.
So can I ask you a question about that?
No. Yes.
Well, I'm going to anyway. So that seems to make very common sense.
Yeah.
But probably easier said than done. So the question is like, what's the mistake people make when they're trying to demo or show? Like, how do you do that properly and effectively?
Yeah. The big mistake is, well, there's multiple mistakes. But the first thing is you have to make sure the tell is nailed first. That's why tell comes first.
Okay.
Because that makes it easy for you to demonstrate. Then I look at when I've seen examples of clients of mine that have maybe put together like a call library, right? Because I know it's common for organizations to use. They don't make it bite-sized enough, right? Let's think about the skill of discovery. That is a massive meta skill. There's 20 different things that go into running good discovery, right?
Yep.
So you have to chunk it down and make it bite-sized and make it as extremely specific as possible, okay? So going into how much this can help, because you might be thinking, if you're a leader watching this, or for the folks that have said like, well, if I document everything, what's the deal? So you all feel more confident in Chef B because they have the example. So they did another analysis. I bring out a lot of data, by the way, disclaimer, because if I'm going to teach anyone anything, I want to be anchored, not by my feeling. I want to be anchored in data. So there was a study done for people that were learning mathematics, actually. And what they looked at, I think it was like over 550 studies, don't quote me on that. And they showed what's the difference between someone who's given written instructions of how to do an equation versus the written instructions with a video of someone following the instructions. 20 to 30% difference. So let's think about this. We have a 30 to 40% acceleration of how fast someone learns a skill by just documenting what good looks like and doing it right. We had another 20 to potential 30% increase in skill acquisition and skill retention by giving that example of what that looks like.
Using all the senses.
Using all the senses.
Reading, listening, watching.
Yeah, it's learning theory.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think you mentioned like a mistake, right, to go back to this. So one of the big mistakes that a lot of leaders make when they're doing this is they feel like they have to be perfect when they're modeling it for the reps. So I'll tell you a story. I remember early in my career, I was going through a training and it was like objection handling or something. And they asked our sales leader to come up and role play in front of everybody. And to be candid, the leader like bombed. Like they didn't do that great.
I was about to say, who was it? Just give him a shout out, but now you better not.
No, a great leader. But they didn't do good. And in my mind, well, you might be thinking, oh, wow, that's terrible. But as a rep, I was like, oh, wow, that's so cool. Like Neil got up there and failed in front of us.
Yeah.
That shows a lot of guts.
Yeah, for sure.
So think about this. If you're a leader, if I could see my leader as willing to fail and not nail it, right? He did okay, but he didn't nail it.
Yeah.
If he does that, well, what's that going to do for me when I'm on a sales call? I'm going to feel like I have permission to play loose, right? For the sports folks, right? You know that term. You don't want to be tense. So that's going to give me permission to play loose, take risks, try to implement these things, and not feel like I have to be perfect, right? Because that's a big thing. Is like leaders, they're nervous to role play with the reps. And my big thing as a leader when I was coming up, I always told my reps, I said, look, I'll never ask you to do anything I'm not willing to do first. And then, in fact, before I even ask you to do it, I'm going to role play with you, or I'm going to do it myself, and it's not going to be perfect. But so I'm going to model that behavior with it. And then what I found over time is it enables my reps to be more loose because they're doing it reduces their what I call cognitive load, and that frees them up on the calls.
And sorry, go ahead.
No, so the third step then becomes the observation, like you were saying. And I think what scares a lot of people is being observed, right? Like, oh, somebody's watching, and all that tension that you were talking about kind of comes back, right?
Yeah.
How many times have you coached reps, either of you, and you do mock call or you're listening, and they're like, oh my gosh, I was so nervous when you were listening, right? So how do you make that observation component feel supportive instead of intimidating?
And if I can just add to that, I love that, because as leaders, many of us are like, hey, let's do, as you said, let's do a role play, AE, let's do a role play together. Nobody likes that, right? We used to pretend that doing a role play, like you said, with the AE and me as the CRO or whatever,
Yep.
is a good thing to do. It just usually creates stress no matter what you do. So how do you make it as easy as possible, to Scott's point, to make it work?
Well, let me ask you, answer your question with a question. When a rep says, like, I hate doing role play, I hate when you listen to my calls, like, why do you think that is?
Well, they're scared and they're intimidated. They don't like to fail in public. Yeah. They don't like critique or criticism.
Yeah. They're being judged by they're being judged by the person who
could be embarrassing.
Who pays them.
Well, think about judgment and embarrassment. Like, when I hear judgment and embarrassment, that probably means to me they've been trained that when they listen to film review or they have film review, there's not a positive outcome associated to it.
That's right. Yeah.
Right. So think about it. Like, anyone who, let's say they're new to working out, right? And they're nervous to do it. They're really uncomfortable doing it. Well, one of the reasons why they're so uncomfortable is they haven't experienced the benefits associated to a tough workout before. But then over time, then it becomes part of their identity, and they literally feel like this is what it feels. So if you're a rep or if you're a leader and you feel like, man, it's really tough to create an environment where people are uncomfortable, well, I would take a look in the mirror as a leader first. For sure. To say, hey, when I've run this in the past, was this beneficial for them? Because we haven't hit on the coaching part. There's a right and a wrong way to coach. Yeah. And they might feel like it's not a benefit to them. My reps, even to this day, I'm doing film review with my team that work for my company, and they love it. Like, they crave it.
Yeah, I like it.
Right. So, but the thing I would say is, like, there's a right and a wrong way to do it.
And this is why, like, you mentioned before, I think you said like a third of the people report that feedback is actually hurting performance. Mm-hmm. It's because that feedback is coming in incorrectly.
Yeah, I mean, yes. So there's a couple ways to look at this. To talk more about the observe. Right. I remember the first time I had film review early in my career, and I sat down with my leader, and we listened to like a 30-minute discovery call, and we listened to it, and of course I was a little nervous, right, because I didn't feel the positive benefits. And then we break up. I'm like, what do you think? After the call ended, it's like, oh, well, you could have done a better job of setting the agenda for the call. We didn't really get clear next steps. There was missing urgency. I don't really understand, like, if this is the decision maker, there was 3 stakeholders on the call. You really spent 80% of your time with one stakeholder, right? And there was really an opportunity to try to quantify the business case here, and I think we really missed that. And I remember leaving that call, and I'm like, the hell just happened? All right, did I do anything right? And did that leader have bad intentions for me? No, right? They want the best for me. But like I said, the path to hell is paved with the best of intentions. So to go to like the observe, like, there's a right and a wrong way to do film review. Just a quick disclaimer. With film review, when I'm talking to reps or companies, half of them aren't even doing film review. But the ones that are typically doing it wrong. So, like, number one, easy implement, do film review.
Wait, what do you mean by film review?
Listen to their calls.
Okay.
Like,
observation.
I was just not sure. I'm thinking sports analogies here, but you mean just
listen to their calls.
Yeah.
Because
it's like call review, right?
Yeah, call review.
Listening to recorded calls.
I hadn't heard someone call it film review. That's all.
Yeah, I mean,
just making sure everyone knew what we were talking about.
Well, there's understand the difference between feel and real, right? Feel, they might be feeling like they're doing the right things. Yeah. So one of the mistakes a lot of leaders will make, they'll say, hey, did you ask about their pain? Did you ask about this? Did you do these things? And they ask them. And the rep says yes. And they're not lying. They're not misleading. But in the back of their mind, they feel like they did it. Yeah. Right? Sure. But when you actually listen to the call, when you actually look at the email, when you actually look at the deck, whatever it is, feel how they feel versus reality is very different. Yeah. So you have to make sure that you're actually listening or watching and seeing what is actually being said, what's actually being done, right? But the right way to do the observing is to make sure you're only focused on one aspect or one skill or micro skill that's going to move the needle. So like for my example, they listen to a 30-minute discovery call. There's 20 to 25 skills that make that call at least. So make it bite-sized. Listen to, hey, we're only going to listen to the first 3 minutes of your call. We're only going to listen for how you ask layering questions. We're only going to listen for how you discuss next steps.
So it's not okay for me to say, here's the 28 things you should do better?
Well, that's even the coaching. But like the way you coach right or wrong is first setting yourself to observe right or wrong. Right? And for my clients, because obviously I coach clients in a lot of different companies that, even though they're in tech, they have different verticals that they sell into. If they have me listen to a call, my first question to them is, what am I listening for? What am I watching for? Because I can listen to the same 5 minutes of your call and listen for 10 different things. Right? So that's why nailing the observe, that's why observe and coach is different.
Yep.
Because you have to set the lens correctly.
Of what you're actually observing.
Of like, what am I paying
attention to?
attention to?
Okay.
Yeah, because let's say,
I like that.
Like you could set up a coaching session that is only around tonality, right? So when I'm listening to this 5-minute part of the call, I'm only paying attention to not what you're saying, but how you're communicating, your energy, right? Those are the things that's a skill you can learn.
Cadence, the tonality. Yeah.
Right? And so it's setting the frame for how you're going to do film review. Okay. Makes it way easier.
And you change it like session or week by week. So this week we're observing for X skill, and next week we're going to focus on a different area? Or what's your thoughts on that?
The answer is it depends. When I talk about the repeat, I can get into that. I'll talk.
We can leave it there.
Yeah, we'll talk about that.
Jumped ahead.
Because again, that's one of the massive mistakes people make is doing exactly what you just said.
Okay. Yeah. Of course, I asked the question because I made a mistake.
No.
So we talked about the coaching piece.
Yep.
Right. So
we talked about the observe.
We talked about the observe.
Yeah.
Now we're moving to coaching. So
coaching.
I mean, I've got a billion questions already before you even explain it. But do you want to explain what you mean by coaching first, or?
I mean, well, what do you think coaching is?
Oh my God, I'm on the hot seat.
There we go.
Excuse me. I think there's a big difference between coaching and managing. I always start with that type of premise or thinking about that. I think a lot of people believe that they're the same thing, and they're completely different. How you manage someone day to day in their career is not coaching. Coaching, to me, is about asking questions to the coachee to help them figure it out themselves to a large degree. If I'm telling them, let me just tell you the three things you can do. Here's what you should do next time. To me, that's not coaching. That doesn't really help them. That's giving orders. That's direction. So it's really about helping them figure out what they did right, what they did wrong, and helping them come to the solution. It's like anything. How do you teach someone to fish for themselves?
Yeah.
That's my belief.
The easiest way to understand the role of a coach, because obviously now as a professional coach, people confuse coaching with training. Completely different things. So you play sports growing up. I know you're a big athlete. Growing up, did you play sports growing up?
Does it not fucking look like I did? Like, what kind of question is that?
All right. So you had a coach in the sport, right? So let's think about what that coach did. Did they just tell you, I know you're a big soccer guy, right? Did they just tell you, hey, you need to dribble it better? Or do they show you?
Yeah, and the technique behind it.
The technique. But then when you were doing it, well, what do? They probably at one point even grabbed your hips. It's like, hey, move here, right? Do this.
Yep.
And they physically grabbed you to get your balance right, right? Like when I think about a role of a coach and what coaching is, hands are getting dirty. We're in the trenches, right?
You're right there with somebody.
I'm right there with you.
Yeah.
Right. So that goes to, the part of the framework of, tell, show, observe, coach. I'm giving you direct, actionable feedback that empowers you, that doesn't rattle your confidence. So
I love it.
Because 1/3 of the feedback that's given actually hurts the reps, doesn't help them. So if let's say you're a sales leader and you got 9 or 10 reps and you're giving them coaching, right? What you think is coaching, giving them feedback. There's a decent chance that 3 to 4 of those reps, you're actually harming them instead of helping them.
Okay. So let me ask about coaching just a little bit.
Yeah.
false praise, positive versus negative feedback, or not negative, but constructive feedback. How do you balance that? And just some scenarios, like there's always positive and there's always constructive. Do I, in your mind, and I know we've all been doing this for many years, we all might have different styles of that, and sometimes that's a very good thing, but you're the expert here for today. How do we think about that? Do I balance, let's say I'm coaching Scott. Do I let's start with 3 positives that I saw really well and then get into the constructive? Or what if I really truly think Scott sucked? Do I still make up stuff? Or how do you deal with all that type of situation?
False praise is cancer.
Okay.
When I was a leader, all I wanted to do, it was before I never thought I'd be a coach, but when I was a sales leader, I always thought, hey, I always wanted to give to reps what I wanted. I wanted someone that was going to tell me how it is. I don't sugarcoat. And what I always say to a rep is, if we get to a performance review, or if we get to a PIP conversation, performance improvement plan, if you're struggling, if we get to that point and the feedback that I'm giving you surprises you, I fundamentally failed you. False praise gives you a false sense of security that you're doing the wrong things or doing the right things. And so when you think about giving feedback for folks, you can give them constructive feedback. If they bomb the call, you could tell them they bombed the call, but you can't just say you bombed the call, right? Because that's one of the reasons why the feedback does so much harm. I mean, think about the example I gave earlier. When I did film review, the person told me 20 things that I did wrong, and they were all correct, but all that did was tell me I'm not good enough and didn't give me anything that I could do to take action on it. So, I'll give you an example.
Yeah, let's say I bombed the call.
Yeah.
I just had a cold call. I bombed it. I screwed up immensely.
Yeah.
You just listened to it, and how do you coach me on that?
Yeah, so let's say you bombed the call, okay? Well, example A, I could say, hey, you really didn't do a good job of handling his objection. We need to be better next time. Example B, say, hey, when he talked about, this not being a priority right now, what I would have loved to see you do is leverage our AIA framework. Acknowledge the concern. I appreciate you saying this, totally understand, or I'm sure it isn't a priority. You probably didn't expect a cold call at Tuesday at 3 p.m., right? Isolate the concern. Is that your only concern? Or if there was a way, to show you the value or show you that this is worth it, would it be worth it? And then you go to answer and leveraging our AIA framework. So example A, do better. Example B, here's the framework of how you do better.
Okay.
Right?
I think we're going to go through repeat
Yep.
and implementation, if I'm not mistaken.
Yep.
We have about 10 more minutes-ish, because
Yep.
I know we want to leave some time for some Q&A.
Yep.
So let's get to those two. And then for everyone who's listening, please, if you've got questions, start throwing them in there. And our amazing team here is going to help us keep track of them. And then we'll have a few minutes to ask some of these questions to Justin. So Justin, take us through the last 2 sections.
Well, the repetition piece, the repeat piece, if you will, the problem that I think people run into is like their schedule is so busy, even if it's not, they say that it is.
Yeah.
So like, I don't know how to build this into my schedule. How do I bake this type of, feedback and everything into my schedule? So what's your suggestions for that? Like, what's the best way to build that into the routine?
Yeah, so with the implementation, and I'll go deep on that, but real quick, you just build that into the cadence, right? And then understand that there's a difference between pipeline review, forecast review, and upscale time, right? It's dedicated coaching time. And you have to just build it into your system. But when I think about the repeat, and the reason why I have this as its own dedicated part is because even when I talk to organizations, big organizations, and remember, I worked at Salesforce. Many consider Salesforce one of the best, if not the best, sales organizations in the world in the tech space. They didn't do this. Like, no BS. They didn't do this well at all. They didn't understand, or just don't understand this, that it takes time to ingrain these skills. So, are you guys familiar with the forgetting curve?
No.
It rings a bell, but please elaborate.
So the forgetting curve was a study of like our memory. And it said within 24 hours, we forget 50% of the information that we take in. And within 7 days, we forget up to 90% of the
Oh,
information.
yeah, I have heard of this.
It sounds like he's defining Richard Harris.
Yeah, yeah.
Might need to elevate those numbers a little bit.
Talking about aging a little bit.
Yeah.
You gonna take that, Richard?
Richard has a time to defend himself later.
Yeah.
I'm totally fine with that. I'm all about it.
Keep going, sorry.
No, you're good. So when you think about this, the way I think about becoming great at sales or becoming great at anything, all you are doing is stacking habits, brick by brick. And we've all, many of us have probably read Atomic Habits or have seen the studies of it takes 21 days to build a habit, right? But let's think about like what a habit is. I'm assuming you guys brushed your teeth this morning, right?
Yes.
Yes.
It's good. If you didn't, I'm glad we got some distance. Well, if you didn't brush your teeth, how would you feel right now?
Dirty.
Gross.
Feel dirty, right?
Yeah.
Well, why is that? The reason why is because the idea of having good oral hygiene is aligned with your identity. I am not someone that doesn't practice this skill, right? This habit. Sales is no different. When you were a kid and you were learning that habit, did it happen right away? No, it took time to ingrain it in your identity.
Had to force me to do it at first, probably.
Maybe. So they probably forced you to do film review, forced you to test asking layering questions because you weren't used to doing that. So you're introducing these new skills, knowing full well it's not a habit for you yet. Full well you're gonna forget half, if not a majority of what I share with you, right? That's why the whole we're going to hire a trainer for SKO and it's going to solve all of our problems. That model fails.
Sure.
Right? It just doesn't work. So that's why
One-offs.
you had a question earlier, like, oh, what do you do this week, next week, whatever. That's why one of the big reasons why even what I would call mature sales organizations, why they think they have it figured out, but they don't. They'll say, okay, we're going to do discovery this week. All right, next week we're going to do demos. Next week we're going to do cold calling. And think about it, discovery, there's so many skills that make up discovery. There's so many skills that make up doing a good demo. There's so many skills that make up what a good cold call is, right? And all they're doing is just fire hosing their reps
I like it.
with information. So of course they're not going to remember it. And then 6 months later, the rep's on a pip. Well, no shit.
Well, they don't remember it, and then they don't get the results that they're looking for.
They don't get the results. And guess what happens in sales? You're playing tight. So you're into this vicious circle of I'm not hitting my numbers. Every time I log into LinkedIn, I see something around AI is going to take my job. And my sales leader is being pulled in a million different directions. So they don't spend near enough time with me.
Right.
And the time that they do spend with me isn't actually effective coaching and upskilling.
And then the cycle repeats itself over
Exactly.
and over.
Okay, so I know everyone, as we've all worked
Yeah.
together, we know execution is everything.
Yeah.
Ideas are great, but it's all about execution. So I'm implementing the word execution where you've got implementation.
Yeah.
Talk to us about, in the audience, about what do we do with all this? How do we get going? One example might be if you're a sales leader out there, or maybe your sales leader isn't even thinking about this. Maybe you're an account rep and you love what you're hearing and you want to do this more.
Yeah.
How do you get started? Where do you begin?
Very easy thing to do. You can literally implement this tomorrow, because tomorrow's Friday. Film Review Fridays. Very easy. Put a time on the calendar for your team.
What time? This is important.
I think,
Think
5
Yeah.
p.m. Friday sounds good.
no,
No.
that's not gonna work.
No, that's not the right answer.
no. I like late mornings, if not lunch.
And explain why.
So if you do it too late in the afternoon, people's biology, they're more tired.
They're checked out.
Checked out.
They're at happy hour mentally.
Happy hour. All right, so they're not going to be as present. And the morning, you're just more active. So our adrenaline glands are more active in the morning. That's why we're naturally more awake in the mornings. So I like doing that. And also just setting a time that typically is not going to conflict with other things. And the key is, this is the key. The path to hell is paved with the best of intentions. So many leaders that say, we're going to do Film Review Fridays. And then in 2 weeks, their biggest deal in their pipeline is back. I can only meet at noon on Friday.
Yep,
Can we do
yep.
this?
They change the schedule.
You have to be ruthless. You have to protect that time with your life.
Yep.
Because that is the most sacred thing that you can do for your teams. Like, set Film Review Fridays, just an hour every week. and pick a skill and just implement it. Right? That's step one. Be consistent with it. You mentioned if I'm a rep. Well, if your leader's not going to do it, go grab another rep. Right? Go grab another rep and do this. I mean, the highest performing reps that I know and that I work with, they're not waiting for their CEO to develop them. Right? They're hungry and aggressive on that.
Yeah,
so
love that.
grab other people, grab mentors. Grab
You have to learn how to be your own best advocate.
Yeah.
You can't sit around and wait for somebody to give you coaching and training.
Yeah. And I love that.
It's not happening. You got to go ask for it. You got to go get it.
Yeah.
Whether inside your organization or externally even.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I love that. Don't wait around, right? I mean, we've all been leaders in
Yeah.
different companies, right? I can think back. I'm sure you guys can too. The difference between reps on my team who wait to be told or coached versus others going to make it happen, practicing on their own, doing role playing, asking for help, whatever the case may be. Huge difference, obviously.
Yeah, but I think the frontline leaders, the directors, executives, and founders, like, give space for this to give people permission to have this non-negotiable time dedicated to upskill your people. Yeah. And the thing to know is do not confuse pipeline review with coaching. Deal inspection is not coaching.
I love that.
Right? Forecast review is not coaching. That is not that. They're not
Dedicated separate time for coaching.
You have to make sure it's dedicated.
Okay, I'm going to cut you off if that's okay, because we got a bunch of questions.
Yeah.
So I think we got about 10 minutes-ish before we have our next incredible guest speaker coming on. So I guess I'll just read the questions from here. So I'll call out the name, Mr. John Mulligan. Thank you for your question. I'm going to read it to you, Justin, let you take it. How do you meet the challenge when your leader is more of a boss than a coach, especially as an individual contributor? Great question.
If I'm not getting coached by my leader, one of the first things that I want to help them understand is, hey, your goal is to get as much out of me as possible as a rep, right? You have a quota, which is probably a combination of my quota and all of my peers' quotas, right? That's typically how it works with sales leaders. Well, as a rep, my goal is to grow and get better as fast as possible. So what I would love from you as my leader, as my boss, is a cadence where we're listening to my calls. We're breaking down how I'm doing things.
So you're saying have that conversation with your boss.
If this is how I take control, right? I always set the expectation with my leader when I'm brand new to a role or whatever, like, hey, this is what I would love. And then as the rep, I have to follow through. Because if my...
And what do you say to the rep who's uncomfortable having that direct of a conversation with their boss? Get over it?
I say,
Quick,
look...
get over it quick.
I say, look, you can do whatever you want, but if you're serious about trying to get better, you have to establish an environment around you that enables you to do that.
Yeah.
And I always looked at it as, well, incentives drive behavior, right? How does my sales leader get paid? They get paid off of my performance. So it's in their best interest that I get better. Wouldn't you agree? So if I'm that rep that's uncomfortable having that conversation with my leader, understand, like, this is in their best interest to coach you. So forget about your best interest. Start with their best interest, because this is a little bit of a micro sales cycle. You have to sell them on the idea of coaching you. That's how you do it, right? And there's a little bit of like, just do it, rip the Band-Aid off. But on a more meta, like psychological level, just understand, like, it's in their best interest too to help you.
And hopefully this is 1 in a million that we're even talking about, because to be direct, any sales leader who is not open to doing this and doing this well needs to take a look in the mirror, because coaching is very, very, very important.
I mean,
I don't
unfortunately,
know.
they're out
Yeah.
there, though.
Yeah, I don't know.
Agreed.
Yeah.
But that's why I said hopefully it's.
I don't know if it's 1 in a million, because there is some sales leaders that get into leadership for the wrong reasons. They get to sales leadership not because they want to coach and develop people. They get into sales leadership because they don't want to sell anymore. Yeah. Right? Very different.
But you also said that it's in their best interest to coach you. But I think, unfortunately, a lot of sales leaders believe, actually, what's in my best interest is if you can do this stuff yourself and you don't need my coaching at all.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the wrong mindset.
And if I have to spend too much time with you,
then it's actually not in my best interest
Right.
anymore.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, that's, I think, what some people think.
I'm
That's
gonna
a
go
good
to-
question. Go ahead.
Yeah,
Go to the next
no.
one.
I'll go to a question.
I know.
next one.
We know each other, so I know we can
I
go
know.
deep on a lot of this stuff. So I'm going to go to another question. This is from, I'm not sure, anonymous. How many times do you repeat the same coaching advice for someone who simply cannot or will not make the recommended changes?
We've all been there. That's a great question.
Yeah. So this comes down to, are they truly coachable? Now, here's what I would say. Let's say I'm coaching a rep, and let's say I'm teaching them the fall framework, frame, ask, listen, layer, which is a way to help you have better discovery conversations. First thing I'm gonna do is tell, show, observe, coach, right? Do it. And then many times leaders will think, oh, they're just not getting it, when the reality is they're trying and you're not being persistent enough to help them stack on that. So the first time I have a rep implement a new skill, I set the expectation up front. I'm like, you're gonna implement this and you're gonna suck at it. I don't expect you to be good. The win is the attempt, right? So if I'm a leader, that's the first thing I'm looking for. Like, are you even attempting this? Then once you're attempting it, it's like, great, now that you're attempting it, we build on the attempt and make you better. Okay. And you celebrate the progress that they're making along the way. If there's simply someone that says, I won't do that, which I actually think that's more rare than people think. Usually leaders just write off reps. If someone just simply says, I won't do that, I'm gonna take a step back and say, well, why? Right? Maybe they have a specific reason. Maybe they tried it in the past and they tried it once and it didn't work. Right? So I'm gonna dig into that to flesh that out. But if there's someone that's like, I just won't because I won't, well, I mean, the answer is pretty simple on whether or not that's someone that really is trying to get better.
I mean, I think the answer to that is, at the end of the day, do you want that person on your team?
Yeah.
Do you want somebody on your team who is flat out unwilling to make the effort to
If you're
change?
not
I think the answer is no.
Yeah, if you're not coachable, you won't be on the team long.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm going to keep going. There's 4 or 5. I'd love to get through as many as we can. So give us like 2-line answers if you can.
All right, rapid fire, let's go.
If you can. Dean LeBay, thank you for the question. Explain why the bite size is so important. Finish that bite before taking another bite. There are steps and an order for this for a reason.
So the question is, why do it bite-sized?
That's right.
Yeah.
Why is
it
so important to get the first thing right before you start worrying about thing 2 and thing 3?
Because if you're building a skyscraper on a shaky foundation, right? So you have to get the foundation right before you build on it. I mean, it's just, that's the simple answer, but it's just understanding, we forget the information.
And bite size is important because if I try to learn 30 things all at once.
Yeah. You don't boil the ocean. Right? Everyone's heard the term, don't boil the ocean.
Yeah.
It doesn't work. The same thing goes for this.
Yeah.
Okay. We mentioned briefly, it's amazing we've had a conversation without saying the word AI 5,000 times, but we're going to say it now because the question is, so we've talked a lot about coaching and the whole framework here. There's a lot of AI coaching tools out there, right? We can all think of some. Avar is one that I use, I'm a big fan of. There's a whole bunch of out there. BJ Matthew has a great question related to this. Okay. So thoughts on, question mark, give us your thoughts on AI sales coaching tools. Many one-to-one sessions turn into pipeline reveals or get pushed. So talk to us a little bit about how does an AI coaching tool, if you believe in that, it's your opinion, fit into what you're saying?
I mean, whatever the mechanism is that's going to help you acquire the skills the fastest, leverage it. I've been, obviously, as a coach, I've been going super deep on exploring these different tools because I think there's a place for them. I think what I've seen is very primitive still. There's still some room to grow, but I definitely think very soon it's going to get to the place where you can get a lot of really good coaching through it. Now, the thing that's missing with an AI is the humanity aspect of it. There's something to be said about getting coached by a person. It's the same thing.
It's their emotional response.
It's the emotional response, but also too, there's a difference between us being in person like this versus being on a Zoom. The energy, is there for that. So you're gonna miss out on that, but no, I'm not anti-coaching tool.
Okay.
I think there's a time and place for it.
Nicholas Hodge asked a really good question. You were talking about this earlier, and I was going to ask it, but we were trying to get through it.
Yeah.
I'll just read it exactly. As a leader, how do you quickly identify the areas where a rep needs coaching And how would you go about approaching that with a rep? And I love that because we talked earlier about all the different things to dive into.
Yeah.
How do you know? Is it just your gut feel because you're an experienced CRO, or are you using data? How do you know where to focus?
Data.
Okay.
Data. And the more experienced you get, the faster your gut's going to tell you where to look with their data, but you always get to validate it with the data. Now, but the mistake that a lot of companies make is they use a very broad metric to help to identify the problem. So like, for example, win rate. Win rate is an extremely broad metric that if you use that as the metric to determine what I'm going to focus on coaching, Neil on, or Nick in this case, right? You're going to be coaching on the wrong thing. So a better example might be the win rate might be an early indicator. Well, then I'm going to dig into all aspects and all the steps in your selling motion. So the metric may end up being what percent of your first meetings turn into second meetings. And even that is going to help me narrow in on, okay, that's the interaction in the sales process I need to really dive into. And then I'm going to break down the bites that I need to identify are where you're missing the mark on.
I love it. This one's is from someone anonymous, which is totally okay. It's quite personal, actually. So, but I think it's a great example. So we're going to give you a chance here to maybe help someone and give someone some advice. So I'm just going to read it directly so I don't misrepresent it in any way. My boss sees me as an SDR with 20 years of experience and expects me to book meetings every day, even though I joined as a founding SDR with only 1 year of sales experience. He, my boss, hasn't been able to book any meetings himself through outbound efforts, but he still blames my sales skills. Should I leave?
Short answer is yes. Longer answer is it depends, because there's some nuances and context here. I'm operating under the assumption that you're seeking coaching and implementing coaching. I'm operating under the assumption that you're hitting all your daily KPIs and inputs. I'm operating under the assumption that you're even looking externally for assistance to do that. If your leader isn't booking meetings either, that leader may not be there very long. I think what's the average tenure of sales leaders?
14 months right now.
14 months, right? So that tells me they may not be there very long. And just a general piece of advice for anyone that's newer in their career, I always tell people to be very hesitant to join a quote unquote startup before you have a foundation in place. Because only thing is only 1 in 250 companies ever break past 10 million in revenue. So that's less than 0.5% of them. So there's a good chance that company still has so much to figure out that you, being brand new in your career, you're not going to help them do that. On the other side of the coin, if you're able to solve that, you become immensely valuable to that organization. But if you're in a situation where your boss is acting like that and you're controlling the controllables, I'd mostly exit stage left.
All right, we're going to give you the last question, then we're going to cut you off here so we can get ready for session number 2. And you're going to love this one.
Good.
I feel like you planted this one. Justin, tell us about your morning routine.
Well, I just had a kid. So my morning routine is very different right now.
There is no routine anymore.
Yeah.
Yes, good point.
Yeah.
Good point.
I just had a kid. But I'd say, generally speaking, right now, I'm up at 5 to 5:30, and walk my dogs, get my zone 2 workout in the morning, which is like 20 or 30 minutes of cardio. I'm doing that to set the day, and then trying to make sure I have some time allocated with my wife before we both really get into it. That's what it looks like now.
And as Scott said, we both wish you incredible congratulations on the newborn.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Appreciate you spending the last hour with us, man.
Yeah, no, it's been great. Dude, we're here, Midnight to Millions, man.
Good job. Justin J. Johnson, everybody. Check him out on LinkedIn. Give him a follow. Shoot him a connection request.